Thank you everyone for coming. It's an amazing set of graduates we have here tonight, and I think you're all going to really enjoy their speeches. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Richard Togman, and I'm the course facilitator. So I've been helping everyone here learn and practice and improve their speeches, and it will be a really amazing night tonight for everyone. And so first off, I just want to thank the City of Thunder Bay for, first of all, providing funding for the program so we can actually put it on, and for allowing us to use council chambers, so thank you for that. I'd also like to thank United Way, who's made some generous donations to us, the Indigenous Friendship Center, where we host our classes and providing us with staff time and support, Kinawea Legal Clinic, who also provides a lot of support for the program, and to all the individual donors and guest speakers to the program who have donated both time and money to make this program possible. So thank you for that. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to invite up Steve Mantis, who's one of our directors of the Speaker School Board, to give his opening address.
I have to now do double thanks to Richard, first for the introduction, but for really leading the program for the last couple of years. We're really pleased to have him here as our facilitator and be really the face of New Direction Speaker School for many of the folks. Come on in. Our organization is really a volunteer organization. Richard is our main staff, and he's only on a part-time position. Our board really looks after a lot of the business of the organization, and I'd just like to recognize the members of the board that are here. If you could stand up. We got Carly and Alex and Angie. Our board is made up of 9 people. Our organization is a partnership. It's a formal partnership between the Thunder Bay and District Injured Worker Support Group, Kinawea Legal Clinic, and the Lakehead Social Planning Council. Also on our board, we want to have at least 2 of our graduates, of our alumni, on our board of directors. And in fact, one of those positions has now come open, and we are looking for a nominee or someone to nominate themselves to sit on our board of directors and make all those big decisions with no financial rewards. It's not like Ontario Hydro or Hydro One that just voted themselves an increase of $25,000 a year. We also work hard, but we do it for love rather than money. And the love is about the program itself. The program is designed to provide an opportunity for people who face barriers, social and economic barriers to participation in our community, to become more active participants. In a way, what we're doing is we're trying to promote democracy. Democracy is when everybody has a voice. And lots of us in our society don't normally have a voice, and that's what this program is about, to try to rebalance those voice, and in a way, with our voice comes some of our power and our confidence to participate and to bring the issues that we face and deal with on a daily basis into the public discourse. I also want to thank some of the other folks that help us out, maybe not with money, as the city and the United Way do, but in other ways. I have to thank 2 of our local media, Shaw TV and TBT, who are going to broadcast and increase the voice that all of you have as graduates. I think TBT News is going to be playing it this weekend. Shaw, it will be on the cable channel the following weekend and playing throughout the week. So if you like what you see, tell your friends to kind of watch coming up in the next little while. I also want to congratulate all of the graduates that are finishing up the program today. People participate in New Direction Speaker School in different ways. Oftentimes we start out with a class that may be double the size of the folks that end up completing it. And we feel like everyone that plugs in, whether it's for 1 week, 2 weeks, or the full 14-week course, has some benefit, and we really encourage all of that participation. I think the challenge now that I'm going to put to all of you is now to take some of those skills, the skills about participation and about engagement, and use those skills to build a better community for all of us. Thank you so much, and once again, welcome to everyone tonight.
Great, thank you, Steve. Now I would like to invite up Councillor Puglia to give his address on behalf of City Hall.
Thank you, Richard. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Ojibwe people of Fort William First Nation, and acknowledge the contribution to our communities by the Métis people. Also, I'd like to acknowledge that Steve, Eugene, and others who are here tonight are the founders of this great, what I consider almost a movement. It's a great initiative that gives voice to those who may not be able to feel that they have a voice. So thank you for your leadership of many years ago and your vision. And, on behalf of Mayor and Council, I'd like to congratulate you and all those of you who are speaking tonight, because I know how you feel, having come here to Thunder Bay as a first-generation immigrant, not speaking the language, and having to face my own uncertainty about the future and how I fit in, and how did I find my voice to be able to get the confidence to contribute and participate in our community, eventually as an elected official, also, which speaks to the representation and our ability to engage and represent those that need to be represented. And so what you're learning, and besides the leadership skills and the techniques, what I find the most when I went to Toastmasters with Steve 30 plus years ago, I learned to be able to organize my thoughts, be able to control my nervousness, because even now, after so many years of participating in political life, there's always that touch of being nervous at times, especially in an uncertain environment and when you're not prepared. So preparation is key. As you know tonight, you come here prepared, and it's not so much even that. I think more than anything else, what I found that really makes a difference when we engage in communication, when we talk to people, is believing in what you're saying, believing in yourself, and having the passion to express your thoughts. If you're focused on that, the rest will come together. Because at the end of the day is our ability to make a connection with the people who are on the other side, who are listening, that will be able to establish that two-way communication. More than anything else, I found that passion and believing in yourself is going to be the key in moving forward. And not only, and therefore, with a newfound voice, you'll be able to gain that confidence to do anything you want to do, anything you want to set your mind to. Because in our world today, the ability to stand up and communicate and express your views will add a tremendous amount of power and leverage to whatever you want to do in your lives. So, congratulations again. Thank you for being here. And let's make Thunder Bay one of the most inclusive cities anywhere in the world, and your voice will add to that. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Great, thank you, Councillor Puglia. That was a great speech. And sets a very high bar for our graduates coming up next. So without further ado, I'd like to invite up Jerome to give her graduation speech.
Good evening. I don't expect I'll be the first one. Okay. Are you an injured worker and under the WSIB or Worker Safety Insurance Board system of compensation? If yes, are you fairly compensated enough and satisfied with this system? WSIB is very stressful to injured workers. This system is physically stressful for injured workers. WSIB is supposed to help injured workers to stand or go back to their own feet as they are before the injury. But instead, injured workers are repeatedly knocked down physically. WSIB is supposed to compensate injured worker to the impact of the injury. But it's based on the Meredith principle, and Meredith is the founder of the Workers' Safety Board. I was injured November 11, 2015, doing a job that my supervisor pushed me to do, even I refused and complained that it's not safe for me to do. In short, I went through the WSIB system, and they accepted I'm injured at work. I followed everything they said. I worked with pain and with the injury. I end up with the surgery, and the surgery was not successful and made me worse. My family doctor told that I'm worse than before the surgery. But because of the specialty clinic of that the WSIB hired, and they received the comprehensive report that I can work, I have to work with pain because I still have the left hand, because I injured my right hand. WSIB denied my claims for further treatments and rehabilitation because of the specialty clinic dictation of that I can work already. So I went to treatment and I pay in my own pocket. Instead of sending me to treatments, they sent me to training and work while I'm doing the school. Then I sustained a second injury and other health issues like PTSD and depression. So it seems that WSIB is concentrating more to send injured workers to the workforce than to send them for further rehabilitation and treatments. And this is not acceptable. This early safe return to work is called the ESRTW. So this is not really good for injured workers. WSIB is financially or economically stressful for injured workers. This system is feeding poverty to injured workers. Some are on the streets, some are on the charities or welfare, some are depending on others, and some are in the brinks of bankruptcy. Bit by bit, they're losing their hard-earned investment and earnings. And some lost their homes, some lost their families, and some even commit suicide to escape the agonies and sufferings. Unfortunately, we got injured at work. Should we lose our dignities and respect? Injured worker lost wages based on a phantom employment, a job that these workers never worked. And this system, I felt helpless and completely derailed. The WSIB kept denying claims for health expenses, and workers have to pay their treatments. No job securities. Injury employers may give them jobs, but later they are deemed their job performance are not satisfactory. In my case, they offered me early retirement after it was agreed upon that I have a secure job, a new job, because I went to training, and then now they are offering me early retirement, which is so unfair. And then this WSIB is letting these employers championing the opt-out, not keeping the grand bargain, compensating them for existing injury and giving them rebates. and they are funding the specialty clinics instead of helping the injured workers who are suffering 24/7. The WSIB system is mentally or psychologically stressful to injured workers. The complexity of the injury diagnosis, the processing and dealing with the system are stressful enough. Plus, the formula of physical stress and financial stress, it will equal to mental stress. Who will not be mentally and psychologically affected with this system? I have combated racism and other struggles in life. Sorry. I had lost the ability to earn a living before. Now I constantly in pain and fear for my future. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. Who knows when this will last? I feel like fighting three big forces: the WSIB, my employer, and my daily struggles in life. I shed tears, I see injustice, I feel the pain, I see no answer. I feel helpless, I feel so small and so unable. My loudest call is hollow and uncared for. I feel an undercurrent fear, tension inside under the calmness of my soul. Seems like a riptide's coming and rising. I want to turn away, pretend, run, hide, but I shiver and shake and cannot cry no longer. My mind is filled with grief. I'm blinded with anger that boils in my heart. If you could do something to change this system, please do it before one precious life suffers or gone. In the wild, an animal will not attack an injured or sick animal of their own. The WSIB system is doing the opposite. Injured workers are human beings. Please give back their life and their respect and dignities. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Great. Yeah, come on in. All right, thank you, Jerome, for a very powerful speech. Yeah. I'd like to now invite up Angela to give her graduation speech.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming out to the speaker school event. I'm going to start off with a phrase from Hamlet, sort of. So, to eat healthy or to not eat healthy, that is the question. There are so many choices to make, but unfortunately we make the wrong choices. But if you grew up eating healthy, well then that's good for you. In today's society, we are struggling to eat healthy because of our family norms, our lack of knowledge of healthier options, and the high costs of foods. Our family norms are comprised of what we usually had at the table. Some people may have had healthier options, such as non-sugary foods, while others only know of cereals loaded with sugar. I remember growing up, and my meals consisted of cereal with sugar, juice, Kraft dinner, and soup. I found that pretty nutritious. Well, if I didn't eat it, then I couldn't eat anything as well. We don't often think of how much servings of fruit and vegetables to eat each day. We ate what we were given. In a facts and stats in Canada, an average 26 teaspoons of sugar are consumed daily. We opt more for the fast food and comfort foods. If this is all you know, then it will be pretty hard to add vegetables to your plate. Once a norm is in place, it will be pretty hard to break unless you have a health condition that forces you to make changes. Now in families, diabetes is prevalent in Canada as a consequence of this norm. There is a lack of knowledge of healthier options to healthy eating. We are now being told what to eat by doctors and dietitians. If you walk into a grocery store, you need a list, and a list consists from a plan of meals or recipes you will need that week. Unless you have a recipe book or a meal plan to follow, we can add more healthier options to our meals. To cook foods of healthier options will take awareness and planning. We can cook with lentils, beans, wild rice, quinoa, and vegetables, foods that are good for us. But not everyone knows how to cook with these foods or know how to mix. We now need to find ways to make these foods so they can taste good and become a habit. High costs of foods is another issue when we are trying to feed our families, meals and snacks. We are being faced with the healthy options and the unhealthy options. It's a mind over matter at this point. Do I want an apple or a chip? What is more easier, preferable, or cheaper? The foods we are being told to eat are more on the expensive side, but are more better for you. With the high cost of foods, we need to choose healthier as told. When we can't, we still need to buy other foods we need in our recipes. This leads to families being unable to feed their families unbalanced meals. In our northern communities, this only gets worse, as the price of a bag of oranges is $18. A lemon, just one lemon, is $3. And for a box of chips that are a variety box of chips are $9. So, and also gas prices are near $3 in the north. So this drives up food prices. There are so many choices to be made, but the value to eat healthy outweighs what to buy to get by. There are many struggles and choices to be made to eat healthy in today's society. The norms of our families has an effect on our diet. The lack of knowledge is another obstacle to eating healthy. The high cost of foods are another barrier to choosing to eat healthy. If we had more classes to cook healthier and to be able to try new recipes, we can widen our knowledge and choose to eat healthy. If healthy foods can be subsidized to be more affordable, we can easily purchase these healthier foods. I too need to learn how to make healthier choices. It's ongoing learning and choosing to teach the next generation. Miigwech for listening.
All right, thank you, Angela, for that. Now I'd like to invite Laura to give her graduation address.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to access a city transit bus as a person with a disability? Being told that there's no room for you on the bus and that you would have to wait 15 to 30 minutes for the next one? No? Well, I worry about this every time I have to wait for a city transit bus. There are seats on the bus, but as a person with a disability and walker, my choices are limited. Relying upon city transit as a person with a disability is not as easy as you think. Let me share one of my experiences with you. I was across from the Scotia Bank on Red River Road waiting for the Memorial northward to come because I was going to meet someone. When the bus came, I got on the bus only to find out that the two priority seats were occupied by people with strollers. When I asked if one of them could move so I could sit down, I was told by the bus driver that I couldn't do that as there wasn't any priority seating on the bus. Which is strange, as there is signs posted on the bus that list the seats priority seating regulations. He told me I would have to wait for the next one. The Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act states that accessible transportation standards have been identified as being crucial for people with disabilities. Thunder Bay Transit is not truly accessible for some because not only is there a lack of adequate accessible seating, at times the buses are not being lowered enough or are being parked too far away from the curb. And in addition, in the wintertime, the bus stops and the shelters are not always free of snow and ice. Well, let's begin with the inadequate accessible seating. There just isn't enough seats. Right now on the older buses, there are 2 priority seats, as well as 2 for expectant mothers. Now with the newer ones, the ones that are blue on the outside, that's another story. There are only 2 priority seats for people with disabilities, and the amount of regular seating has decreased, so there's more people having to stand, which is making getting off the bus a lot harder. The problem is that people sometimes feel that they do not have to give up the priority seats for people with disabilities, and the bus drivers are told that they are not allowed to get involved. I feel that there should be at least 2 more accessible seats on each bus, and the rest of the regular seats go back the way they were before, which is the seats going along the sides of the bus, which gives more room, which allows more people than the ones that the blue and green seats do. In doing research about the city transit drivers' policies, I found out that like Thunder Bay, Mississauga, and Vancouver have the same policy, which is that the bus drivers are told that they're not to get involved. However, I'm really amazed at Winnipeg. Their policy is completely different. In Winnipeg, their drivers are being trained to help passengers with disabilities and are to ask the riders without mobility issues to move if a seat is needed. Winnipeg wants to make sure that people with a disability get on and off the bus hassle and confrontational free. In Laval, Quebec, the bus drivers are also getting the same training. So by finding out this information, I feel that Thunder Bay Transit drivers need the same kind of training that the Winnipeg bus drivers get, and they should also be expected to monitor the priority seats. The City of Thunder Bay has a no interference guideline for drivers. This goes against Section 49 of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act regulations that states that there needs to be a communication strategy to inform the public of priority seating. Another issue I have with the city transit is that some of the bus drivers at times do not lower the buses enough. At times they claim that this is far down as the bus will go. But then there are others who go out of their way to make sure that there is no issue getting on and off the bus. Also, at times they park too far away from the curb, which is a hassle. When I got my walker, I was taught to get off the bus backwards. However, if the bus isn't parked close to the curb, the gap will be dangerous for me, I could fall. I almost fell one time, and if it was in a person waiting to get on the bus, I would have. The final issue that I have with the city transit is the condition of the bus stops and bus shelters during the winter months. They are not maintained properly during this time. They're often full of snow and ice, which is a danger to just about anyone. If you're able-bodied, you can probably function enough to protect yourself. But if you use a wheelchair, you can get stuck in the snow or slide on the ice. And if you use a walker, usually you'll have to stay indoors because you wouldn't be able to push your walker through the snow and you might fall on the ice. Have you ever pushed a shopping cart through a snowy parking lot? That's me all winter long with my walker. If the bus shelters and the bus stops were better looked after, I wouldn't have to miss school, medical appointments, or counsel my friends. The conditions of the bus stops make me feel isolated during the wintertime. I called the city transit to inquire about this, and to find out when the bus shelters would be shoveled. And I was told it's usually 3 days after it stops snowing. Well, what happens if you have an appointment, meeting, or you need groceries? If the Thunder Bay Transit kept up on the snow and ice, then I wouldn't have missed out on my perfect record at speaker school. I missed one class because of the snow. So in conclusion, I challenge each one of you to live your life for a week with either a wheelchair or a walker, depending fully upon a city transit for your day-to-day tasks. Now remember, no cheating allowed. I hope that you leave here with a much better respect and understanding for people with disabilities. Believe me, it's not easy. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Laura. All right, now I'd like to invite up Janice to give her graduation speech.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to the 2018 graduation of Speaker School. I would like to thank the mayor and councilors for allowing us to have it here at City Hall. My name is Janice Kostick, and I would like to talk to you about one small street in this town. It is called Mackenzie Street. Mackenzie Street runs from Simpson Street to Cummings Street. It has one convenience store on it, the Max, 3 churches, St. Casimir's, New Life Christian Fellowship, and St. Luke's, 1 school on it called Ogden. It also has My Kids Count, and the Evergreen Center, and a small Christian group on D Street. At My Kids Count, they have programs for everything, from childcare to cooking programs to teach you how to cook, from the Good Food Box, and how to make good food on a low budget. The first Saturday of every month, they have a free breakfast. We then have the Salvation Army soup truck, which stops every day at Robinson Street to give out soup and sandwiches. We have Ogden Street School, which has a wonderful breakfast program where kids may eat and make their lunches for the school day. They also offer a program to give children food for the weekend and hampers on Christmas and March breaks. We have a Christian Fellowship School, church, which offers a pancake breakfast every Sunday morning. We have a center for children from 18 plus, which is called Evergreen. For 8 plus kids, it gives a place to play and learn, and it also gives a needed supper if called for. It is just under 5 years old, this center. Then at D Street, a small Christian group gives out bread and vegetables every Tuesday. Not bad for a small street of old and young, modest and low income and no income people. I have lived on this street for 41 years, have raised 3 boys, and now live here with my husband, 1 son, and my granddaughter. It is all nice but we have the bad too. We have hookers on every street corner from Heron to Cummings, which also means lots of drugs. I would like to thank you for listening to me, and I'd like to thank the Indigenous Center for letting us have our classes there, and the many people who came out to talk to us, but mostly Richard. A teacher as wonderful as him is hard to believe. Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks so much. Great. Thank you, Janice. All right, and to follow up on that inspiring speech about her neighborhood, I'd like to invite up Edward Victor Stashu.
Thunder Bay, the best city in the best country on the planet. If you can't make it here, you can't make it anywhere. No, this is a pretty great city. I'd like to thank my mother for giving me birth and not kicking me out no matter how many times the police came to the door. She's a beautiful human being, and I thank her from the bottom to the top of my heart. She's fantastic. And I'd also like to thank our children's count. I took this course in 2014, and I've been growing like a weed ever since. And now I want to give back to the next generation. You can do it, kids. The trick is to just do it and learn as you go. Like Frank Puglia said, he had a lot of hoops to jump through getting into this country, and He did a fantastic job. But that's the trick, kids, is to just do it and learn as you go. I've had a lot of obstacles in my life. But our children's count made me realize that I had a voice and I had something to say. And I've been dreaming about that voice ever since. And it's inspired me to grow like a weed. I took a 2-year visual arts course in Victoria, BC, and I had a dream. After my friend died, we went through $250,000 in less than a year and a half on crack. So you don't think I got high? Think again. But I've never been higher in my life than I have from learning at speaker school and at college and the university. And I've turned into a humanitarian after taking the Humanities 101 course at the university. Fantastic course. And our children's count speaker school is fantastic, and no amount of funds can replace that knowledge that I got from those 2 courses. Yeah, you can do it, kids. The trick is to just do it and learn as you go. Yes, speaker school, the university, Bisno, where I'm staying, supported me all the way. And I'd like to thank them. And the adult literacy group, fantastic organization, developed my computer skills to where I know my dream is going to come true, and now I want to help others accomplish their dream, which I know I can help some or all of you overcome your demons and become a functional human being in society again. You can do it. Thank you, Thunder Bay, for being used. Yeah! Well done, Richard.
Good job, Rod. Good job. All right, thanks, Ed, for that speech. I'd like to invite up now Dorcas to give her graduation address.
My name is Dorcas Wanamash. I'm here today to share my story with you. My main focus will be on child apprehensions, and for those of you who don't know what that means, it is when Child and Family Services, namely DELICO or CAS, remove children from their home and place them in foster homes. Child apprehensions in this day and age are handled differently from early 1900s and year 2000. I say this because back then, when children were brought into care and placed in foster homes, they became Crown wards, and that has changed. The agencies are now being told that they must place the children with family first. before considering foster homes or applying for crown wardship. But there are times when agencies fail to follow protocol. Back then, families who have been through this weren't aware of their right to choose where their children are placed. But since then, family lawyers are now offering their services to help families who have either had their children placed in homes, became crown wards, or denied kinship. In my experience, my 3 granddaughters, who mean the world to me, were placed in foster homes immediately. None of our family members were contacted in regards to them. And later, I found out that the reason they weren't placed with me as planned was because of an assumption that I contributed in some way to the neglect, which is impossible. You hear more and more stories about child apprehensions, and most being ruled as crown wards. There is currently a lawsuit against Delico for failing to inform the parents that their children have been deemed crown wards. I chose to obtain a lawyer to get custody of my granddaughters because I know that I'm fully capable of taking care of them, and no child should have to live with strangers. If they can't have their parents, then grandparents are the next best thing for any child. I now have weekend access, but still that isn't enough. And to see your grandchildren in tears and expressing they want to stay forever makes it difficult. By sharing my experience, I hope that it helps other families who are currently separated from each other. Since being able to spend weekends with my granddaughters, I am able to sleep at night. Prior to the weekend visits, it was a 3-hour supervised visit once a week. I am hoping to have everything sorted out soon so that they can finally be where they want to be, which is at home with Grandma. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Dorcas, for the speech. All right, we're about halfway done our graduation speeches, but lots more exciting topics to come next. Next up, we have Dawn to give her graduation speech.
Oh, I'm here now. Where can you find affordable meals? Well, walk down to Bay Street. There is a building that is unique with a wide door. Come on in. Go seat yourself at a clean table. Everything is home cooked. Buy a membership and you will be promoting and preserving Thunder Bay's Finnish heritage and culture. They can be purchased at the Hoito restaurant. The idea for the restaurant came about in a logging camp outside of Nippigan. Finnish bush workers at Kailo camp were concerned that they couldn't find cheap lodging in Thunder Bay and reasonable priced meals. Every day there is a big lineup of people waiting to get fed. Once they get their food, they are happy and they go home. Some people travel very far just to get to the Hoito restaurant. Many people in Thunder Bay remember going as children and say they really enjoyed the pancakes. Well, we reached our milestone. Now this building has been a designated historical site since 1991. When the war was going on in 1876 to 1914, which was the longest wars, 2,502 people came to Thunder Bay and parts of the USA. It was very hard for them to have to leave their homeland. They rent the hall for wedding receptions and lots of different kinds of things. I love working there because it's part of my culture. In the summertime, they have markets where they sell all kinds of things, handbags, planters for plants, etc. For the Hoito's 100th anniversary of the Hoito and its historic building at the Finnish Labor Temple, to help mark the historic event, the Chronicle Journal is putting together a commentary page. In the summertime, they have a Finn Festival where there is lots of nice things to see. One is called the Grasshopper. I love to watch. In all my life, I never thought I'd be working at the Hoito restaurant. I like it a lot. For now, I'm a dishwasher, but maybe someday soon I'll be the next chef. Some of my coworkers say, "Well, we don't know what we'd do without you, Don." In 2014, our doors almost closed, but we overcame it with lots of sales. This was the first a community auditorium originally housed a theater, a library, and a reading room. And in the central Polygon Tower, it was attended as a community meeting place. All my family and friends are very proud I worked there. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Well done, Dawn. All right, and now I'd like to invite up Deb to give her graduation speech.
I'd like to thank you all for attending our graduation. I would like to share a few words about happiness and how to find it. It's simple, really. Your happiness is found and experienced from within yourself. You may think, I know what happiness is. It's a feeling of joy. Well, you're right. It's that warm, very pleasant feeling you get when doing something that you love. The online dictionary defines happiness as a pleasurable or satisfying experience, a mental or emotional state of well-being that is felt by positive emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy, that is related to life satisfaction, appreciation of life's moments, or the pride you feel when striving after your heart's desire. Happiness is an attitude that we can nourish with positive thoughts and surroundings. Our interpretation of our reality creates our experience and determines how we view each event and ultimately our feeling of happiness. What might be perceived as negative, difficult, or unpleasant to one person might be viewed as quite acceptable and even enjoyable to another. This all comes from within. If you are looking outside yourself to be happy, you are looking in the wrong place. We make choices every minute of every day that determine how we view our world. And the way we choose to approach and respond to the events of each day is reflected in our degree of happiness. In support of this theory, psychologists from the University of Edinburgh, in collaboration with researchers from the Queensland Institute in Australia, found that in a study, on average, 50% of happiness comes from actions and the rest is related to personality traits such as sociability, conscientiousness, and lack of anxiety and worry. It was also noted that the 50% we can control is related to our social, cultural, and environmental conditions. This means that if our relationships are negative, cold, critical, or disrespectful, we will likely not be as happy as if we are living in a more supportive environment. You might be frustrated and unhappy in your workplace. So you decide to look for a new job, believing that a job with another company and with different people will make all the difference. Think about what it is that is causing your unhappiness before you act on that decision. Determine if you are running away from something or something, or are you moving towards something? To move from a job that has limited opportunities for advancement to one with potential to gain personal and professional experience will be the right move. But if you are running away from something, chances are that whatever it is, it will be with you wherever you are working. You might decide to move to another city to get away from people or situations that are making your life difficult and unhappy. If you believe people will behave more to your expectations just because it is a different geographical location, you're mistaken. People are the same wherever you live. If you think that winning the lottery might be the answer to achieving happiness by providing for all your material wants and needs, think again. This can be a temporary dream that can quickly turn into a nightmare, causing your world to crash. Before you can even realize what has happened, your money is gone, and you are back where you were, or maybe even worse off than before, as many lottery winners have sadly revealed. If you are unhappy in a personal relationship, you might decide that to find a new partner would be the answer to your sad dilemma. This might help you to be happier in the beginning of a new relationship, but chances are, if you haven't made any changes within yourself, the same issues will arise again. So before you cut yourself loose, think about what it is that is causing your pain. You may have unreal expectations of the other person, perhaps believing that it is their job to make you and keep you happy. It is not their job to make you happy, and it is not your job to make anybody else happy. Your happiness is your responsibility, and each person's happiness is their own responsibility. None of these solutions will create a permanent change to your happiness. You can't run away from your problems. You are the common denominator. Some recommendations I can make to help you find happiness are, first, open the curtains and let in the light. Daylight is a natural stimulant. The visual and mental stimulation we get from a sunny day is enough to regulate our circadian rhythm and stimulate higher productivity and comfort. Artificial lighting in the darkness of winter can help boost your spirits. Before falling asleep at night, reflect on the things that you're grateful for. Maybe someone made you smile, or you made someone else smile. Perhaps you recall seeing the clouds moving gracefully across the sky, and that made you feel peaceful. Be grateful, or just the fact that you have a safe place to sleep tonight. Smile. The simple act of smiling, even a fake smile, will cause your brain to release endorphins that will boost your serotonin levels. A study from Scientific America found that people who are physically unable to frown were actually happier on average. This supports the belief that the expression we wear can create the reason to wear it. Practice creating a new happiness attitude towards people and events by remembering these words of wisdom that ring true to me. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change. Whatever you think, you bring about. Wherever you go, there you are. You can't fail at this, and there was no one there to judge you. Remember, today is the first day of the rest of your life, so rejoice. We get to do it all again. It's all up to you. Make up your mind to be happy now.
Great. Thanks, Deb, for that inspiring talk. And now I'd like to invite up Tim to give his graduation speech.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here with us. First of all, I would like to acknowledge Richard, our speaker school teacher, and fellow graduates, and friends and family, the leadership of Thunder Bay, and also the we're on the traditional land and territory of Fort William First Nation. My name is Tim Sophia, and I'm from Webekwe First Nation. And I recently moved to Thunder Bay this past August with my wife and 3 kids who are 16, 14, and 8 years old to access better education and resources for the betterment of their lives. And you know what I want to hear? More people sharing their recovery stories and succeeding. Today, I want to speak of the importance of facing alcohol and drug addictions, because addiction is difficult to overcome and it can lead to jails, institutions, and death. I grew up seeing and experiencing alcoholism, family, domestic violence, physical, sexual abuse in the homes of my family members and also in my community. I took my first drink of alcohol at the age of 9 years old. As I grew into my teen years, I became rebellious. Eventually, in my adulthood, I was drinking every weekend, and Fridays were party time for me. All that I experienced, I was living. We all heard that the expression, monkey see, monkey do. And I had become the monkey. I met my wife 18 years ago. During the 10 years we have been together, there was alcoholism, family, and domestic physical violence in the home. There were times I ended up in jail and in the hospital. It felt like my addiction of alcohol and drugs had a strong hold on me. It was like a dark cloud over me. Today, I think about it, why I chose to take alcohol and drugs. I believe it was a coping mechanism to block the pain and the trauma I experienced in my life. In 2010, I left for a work trip to Swillicott, Ontario. I went to the lounge, I had several beers. I went to the bar in town and I parked the vehicle thinking that I would not get behind the wheel. As the night went on, I drank more and more. I don't remember walking out of the bar or to my vehicle. I had a long blackout. I must have drove from the 5th Avenue bar to the Forreston Hotel. I do not remember being behind the wheel until I got back to the hotel. I remember saying in my head out loud, or saying out loud, the F word. And I went back to the blackout. The next morning, I woke up behind bars, and I was sore on both sides of my ribs. Immediately, I lost my driver's license and my job. A year later, my family and I attended a family drug and alcohol treatment program in Saging, Manitoba, Port Alexander, an hour from the city of Winnipeg. Throughout the 7-week program, we attended daily workshops, grief, parenting, relationships, anger management, addictions, and trauma. We also did other activities to help us cope with the issues we carry with us through sweat lodge ceremonies, counseling, support groups, and positive family activities. Today, I am grateful for the Men of Madison, the Good Life Family Treatment Program in Saging, Manitoba. It taught me many coping skills, and this is my story of recovery, but we are all unique and different, and all have different paths and personal stories of recovery. We are responsible for our own success, and we need to deal with our issues of trauma on a daily and ongoing basis. This is when recovery becomes possible. Miigwech, and thank you for listening.
Great, thank you, Tim. Now I'd like to invite up Robin to give her graduation address.
I'm going to begin with a quote by the Honorable Justice Murray Sinclair, Chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. Reconciliation is not an Indigenous problem. It is a Canadian problem that involves us all. My name is Robin Medicine. I am the Indigenous Liaison at the Thunder Bay Public Library. I am here today to talk about the library and our ongoing efforts towards reconciliation. As a public library operating in a community with such a prominent Indigenous presence, it is important that we reflect the culturally diverse community in which we serve. The library has already begun implementing a number of action items highlighted in the library's Relationship Building and Reconciliation Report and Action Plan. In September 2017, the Library Board accepted and endorsed the library's Relationship Building and Reconciliation Action Plan, which outlines our response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action, as they relate to our role as a public library and community hub, and will also form a major part of our next strategic plan. The library has taken a new approach at building and renewing relationships with the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people in the community. In preparation for our next strategic plan that will cover 2019 and 2023, the Community Hub librarians have been holding a series of community conversations with various organizations, including Indigenous organizations and groups around the city. Each conversation is a chance for us to better understand the aspirations, goals, and concerns people have for our community. Previous plans have been produced by external consultants, but this time we are using a tried and tested method of community consultation. Once we are clear about the aspirations and concerns, as a library, we can respond accordingly to the community needs and become more community-led and needs-based community hub. So it has been said by the Honorable and Knowledgeable Justice Murray Sinclair and many others that education is key to reconciliation. Since libraries are known for being repositories for knowledge, how can we ensure that we, the public library, are providing valuable and educational resources that are both relevant and applicable to the Indigenous community? Well, I can tell you how the library is making that effort. Each of our 4 library locations will have Indigenous knowledge centers that provide that authentic Indigenous voice that has been missing from our history textbooks for far too long. The Indigenous Knowledge Center's collection is made up of works written and produced by only Indigenous authors. So by committing more resources to public educational materials on topics such as residential schools, treaties, history, and legends, the library's Indigenous Knowledge Centers will not only serve as an insightful and enlightening resource for the whole community, but it will also support the mandate of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which is to educate Canadians on the deplorable conditions of the Indian residential school system, to document experiences of the survivors and their families, and guide and inspire a process of reconciliation and renewed relationships based on mutual understanding and respect. These are just a couple of concrete actions and commitments that the library has taken and made that address some of the gaps highlighted in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 Calls to Action and outlined in the library's Relationship Building and Reconciliation Report and Action Plan. It is important that we understand that the reconciliation process is a lengthy one that will require both collective and individual efforts. It is the responsibility of all Canadians to ensure that initiatives that work towards reconciliation continue. With that, I will leave you with this question. What concrete action and commitment will you take towards reconciliation? Thank you. Miigwech.
All right, thank you, Robin. And we have a special guest speaker here tonight. He's not on the program, but he's a former alumni who's asked to make some remarks. I'd like to invite up Stuart Slibbery to give an address.
Hello. I'm going to speak for about 150,000 students that went through the residential school system. I don't think my name matters at the moment because I want to speak for them. There's about 60 to 70,000 that are still alive that went through the system. And what you see out there today, it's like what Robin says, it's a Canadian problem. It's not our problem. And the governments, the previous governments just left us out. They made decision-making skills for us. Well, we'll do that for you. You want this done? We'll do that for you too. Where are we supposed to make our decisions? And the residential school system was the same way. I went 12 years in a residential school system. And they never, I never had no role models there. I want to talk about the first 10 years of my life. There's 6 people that are prominent in that time. And I just wrote down some prominent I was born to a good family. I was lucky. And most of the people are intergenerationally damaged. The system went through, 150 years? There was hardly any graduates in there. Everybody like me came out of it pretty well mixed up because education wasn't a priority. We weren't even told what we were there for. My mom, when I grew up before I went to the school, I went through my mom's traits, so I wrote some down. She showed a lot of fondness, tenderness. I was contented around her. She was always pleasant, enjoyable, happy. She stood proud. She was 5 feet, but she stood proud. She was always polite, soft-hearted, attentive. I felt safe around her. She was always smiling. In fact, before she died in '93, I went and seen her in a hospital in City Hospital in Saskatoon. I found her in a hallway, and she saw me coming. She saw me smiling. And 2 days later, I stayed with her about half an hour, 45 minutes. And parents don't tell their kids they're in pain anyways. They always hide it. My grandfather was like that. I guess maybe every parent is like that. But I had a phone call 2 days later, and she died. She died of alcohol. She drank when she went to the city. But knowing that she could have, she was going to die 2 days later, I would have stayed there. I would have stayed there for 48 hours until she left me. That's how much I loved her. My dad, I was contented around him. I was always happy. He was a hard-working individual, reliable. He was a good provider. He always had a job. He always had a car. Jovial around his friends. He always made his friends laugh. He was patient with me. He took me hunting at an early age. When he died on November 11th, 1978, I was in school. To make a long story short, they drove me to the it was about 70 miles to my reserve. They drove me to the reserve, and we attended the funeral. But 2 days later, I was back in class. And I had nobody to talk to. Even when I was in school, I just observed a lot. When you're told what to do, they don't want your opinion on this and that, so they never asked for it. We never had nobody to talk to, not even who I'm going to talk to about later. But we grew up in my grandfather's house, my mom and dad too. And I wrote some things. He was very humorous. He was always laughing. He kept me amused. He was patient, generous, kind, understanding. Showed me right from wrong through stories, but I never figured that out until as an adult after that. And that's how our people are, through parables. I did that to my brother when he was growing up. He was 21, he's 10 years younger than me, 11. So when he did something bad, I'd say, come here. And I'd start telling him a story. And then he told me one time, how come you're always telling me a story when, oh, that's the way Mushum did it. You know, you're supposed to figure out from the story what you did wrong. But it's not always until years and years later. And I think everybody goes through that, you know. Oh, that's what he meant. That's what she meant. That's what my grandma meant. That's what my grandfather meant. You know, we're all pretty well alike. You got to see that. I'm going to talk about the 3 people in the next 5 years in a residential school. I went in 1969 in September. Sister Antoinette was there, complete with her black and white habit. And I put down some traits that I don't want to be too mean, but it's the truth. And this helps you with the truth. She was wicked. She was cruel to the rebels in our little dorm, 10 and unders. She was fast too. If you didn't listen, she'd pull your ear like this. She was fast. My friends would go around with scabby ears. We'd be teasing them, scabby ear, you know. And then you'd see her in the night putting petroleum jelly. She was mean, quiet, withdrawn. I was frightened around her. We had a library that I went there for the first 5 years. We didn't even go into the library to study. I didn't even know what studying was. After we came from school, we didn't even study. We do, just more of people like that looking for converts. We went to church every Sunday in the morning, but I didn't mind it. I found it a refuge after a while because it was safe for me. They couldn't hit me. They couldn't raise their voices at me. And this is the first time I was like at home. I didn't hear raised voices from my mother, dad, from my extended family. I only heard happiness, laughing. And then when you went to the cold school, you didn't even hardly hear any laughter until all of us boys were in the playgrounds. We couldn't laugh around her. We couldn't smile around her. We did not experience joy around both of them. She had a partner named Miss Coolin. She was bigger. She wasn't a sister or anything. She was hired from the local school, but they were both there when I went there, and they practiced being... Can you practice not smiling? They didn't smile at... When I started... When I sued the government in 2009, I started to deal with these issues. I said, they didn't do nothing to me. I buried all the abuse, psychological, physical abuse in the back of my mind somewhere. And then I had to deal with them. I was lucky in Ottawa. I found a sharing circle where I couldn't talk about this for 2, 3, 4 years even without shedding tears. Even now, it's really hard, and I congratulate everybody. It's hard to come up here in front of an audience and speak with your heart. Why I say that? I crawled into a sweat lodge last week, and the holy man in the dark, he was explaining. It's hard. It's good. It's easy to talk with your head, but it's hard to. It was in the dark. I'm just making these motions because of me. It's hard to talk with your heart. So that's what I'm trying to convey. I think somebody stole our hearts, and it's hard to get it back. The circle comes around when you start reflecting. I forgot who said that. Reflecting. But that's what I've been doing all this time. Life is a circle. It's not linear like the United States. It's not like manifest destiny. That's not it. Everything is a circle. The universe, the birds. Once you understand that circle, you're going to start talking from here instead of from here. Descartes was wrong. And I'm going to talk about Mr. Bellegarde. He was an Indian guy from Little Black Bear. He was one of the keepers, we called him. But he lorded it over us. The sister would call him We were just small, 10 years old. He would walk around, he'd say, line up, and she'd be right there somewhere. He was the senior boys keeper, so he came upstairs and kept us in line somehow. He was really, he was there when I got there in 1969, and he was still there. And he was a big, heavily shouldered Indian guy. And he was mean, and he never smiled either. And when you don't see people smiling, you tend to take on these behaviors. Even your parents, if they're good, you take on their good behaviors without knowing. You know, you've got to. And when I came here 32 months ago, I was appalled that these are my people. I was appalled at how they're treated and how people treat my people around here. We're human beings, we have hearts. You know, it's just, we need egalitarian allies. We're the minority in our own country, and you're the majority today. And you have a lot of assets. You know, you're not going to take your assets with you when you leave this world. You're going to get judged by how you treat people. I don't know whose God is not different, but our gods are the same. We all have the same way of learning, a new form of reflection. Are we learning it again? My grandmother used to say, she kept us together. My mom and dad broke up every time we came home from school in the summers. She kept us on the reserve. She kept us together. She had all six of us She had all six of us in 1974. My brother is 10 years younger. He was 9 months old. And if she didn't keep us together, we would have been scattered all over, just mixed up. And when I got out of there at 18, I didn't know what I wanted to be. We never had anybody tell us, we want you to be a good member of society. Most of the 150,000 people, we were silenced. We were told what to do. We had never decision-making skills when we got out. And society, the bigger society, you have to deal with legislation, Indian Act. We were herded onto the reserve. When she called us in from the playground, she had one of the boys have a big cowbell. That's how we got called in. You know, less than human? You think so? 12 years I had no purpose. And this carried on for, another 4 decades? From 1969 to 2009, until I had to deal with it. Most of us have good hearts. I'm recovering. This is about my 8th year in recovery. I'm one of the very lucky people that's in recovery. A lot of people don't talk about what they went through, the abuses, sexual. When these stories started coming out, sexual abuse, I couldn't believe it, and this is the first time that I heard about it. And I said I was lucky, I never got sexually abused. But I got in trouble in 96, and there was this lady that I went into a halfway house, and she asked me 3 times if I got sexually abused. By the second time, I was, maybe I did. And by the third, I was starting to believe her. By the third time, I told her, don't talk like that anymore. Don't bring this subject up. I didn't get sexually abused. I don't want you to do that. Because I was starting to believe her. Our minds are, when we went through that residential school system, our minds are not right. You know? I'm happy and I'm lucky that I'm recovering. And I want you guys to know, you have to know this. We don't drink because we like it. Maybe when we're young. When we're older, we drink to forget most of the things that was done to us by the larger society. You know? I went into a treatment for the first time last week. I went through a gauntlet of emotions. We had 8 in our group. And I actually cried and felt the people's pain. And I hope my talk is not to divide people. It's no matter who you are, come together that day. You don't, and it takes a long time to be kind. You don't wake up one day and you're going to say you're going to be kind. You have to practice it. And I tried to practice it in the last 7 to 8 years. I try to be kind. But my neurons in that first 10 years were just mixed up. When your name is you, and you have a number, it doesn't really. Where am I? You don't have time to ask those questions. And English, I had to learn English right away. I didn't know any. I didn't know any English. So I'm talking through all those people that died. 6,000 kids died in those schools. Kids. You know, how would you like it if you're a good standing member of society? Oh, your kids are coming with me. Colluding with the RCMP. You know, there's a lot of barriers. As an Aboriginal person, you may not see it. You're not in my skin. But I want you to understand it. You know, understand it. Reflection. My grandmother used to say, "Andut tamuk." I used to look up. She used to be at the back. Her voice went like this. "Andut tamuk." Na nagat tawain gam sagi mini go. Abatitu. That means you were given a form of reflection. Use it at the end of the day. You know, I think the larger majority forgot it. My people forgot it. You know, reflection's a good way to get deep within yourself. And I can teach you more of my people's holy words, but that's enough for today. I don't have time. Thank you very much for letting me talk.
Great. Thanks, Stuart, for sharing. Well, that's the end of our event for this evening. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I especially like to thank the graduates. It's been an amazing 14 weeks with you guys, and you've come an extremely long way, and it's been a huge opportunity to listen to your perspectives and for everyone else to learn and to share as well. So that's it for tonight. If everyone wants to join us back in the McNaughton room, we can have some cake and celebrations. The graduates, stay here for a second. I got a couple of other things for you guys. And that's it for tonight. Thank you, everyone.